Mexico City has great mobility network. For example, we have the collective transport system, the subway, which has 12 lines and 13 kilometers of trolley trucks. We have a suburban train, which is about 55 kilometers, two metro bus lines, which are also double deckers in some avenues. We also have some bike sharing systems. There are small buses, taxis, and we have one airport, the International Benito Juarez Airport. More recently, we had two of these cablebus. It's a cable car system which connects two of the districts. So one of them is Gustavo Madero and the other one is Iztapalapa. And this is the most extensive, the longest cable car system in Latin America. And in this district, the distance is 9.2 kilometers. It's about 35 minutes of commuting. It is possible to use a transport card, which is applicable to all of the means of transportation mentioned before, the metro bus, the subway, all the buses, trains, and cable cars. On the other hand, in order to reduce emissions in the city, there are also bike paths which cross the city, and it is also very pleasant to take these bike paths to sightsee because it goes through the most beautiful areas of the city. So we kindly invite you to come use one of the many means of transportation that we have in Mexico City.
Muy buenos días con todas y todos. Buenas tardes, buenas noches.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where all of our guests are. Everyone who is passionate about social and solidarity economy, and that's with us today. And you have been with us since Monday, the 4th of October, and we'll be together until tomorrow. So thank you very much for the introduction that was just made. I would like to point out that the Sparkasse, German foundation, has operations in more than 50 countries, and in Latin America, its headquarters are located in Mexico. And we also have the German Service Foundation, which is an affiliate of the Sparkasse Foundation, also located in Mexico. I am originally from Ecuador, and I feel like I am a part of the social economy world where there are no borders between countries. So let me just introduce my organization very quickly. It is a strategic partner and possibly one of the organizations that has cooperated more closely with the GCEF virtual event that we had last year and this GCEF Forum of 2021. So we belong to the financial group for savings in Germany. It's a fundamental pillar of the financial system in Germany, and it is made up of private commercial banks, cooperative banks, and also as savings agencies. These savings institutions have a management model that's based on cooperation and not on competition. In every municipality in Germany, in case you don't know, there is a Sparkasse, which means a savings institution that can only operate in this municipality, and they do not compete in other territories because in all of the municipalities, they have their own savings institution. However, it is a network, and this is a scale economy model. So you can see that competition is not a factor that promotes development. However, in this case, the cooperation is fundamental in order to achieve greater development. The guiding principle is the region for the region. So we capture resources in the municipalities and apply them to the same municipality. All of the income obtained with this financial management is redistributed through the funding of several projects for culture, healthcare, infrastructure, and general welfare of the people. It is a financial management model that's based on the balance between the search for profitability and sustainability, but also with social principles. We don't compete against each other and we work as a network, as I had mentioned before. Another element of success is that we are very close to the people. We are in the same place that our customers want us to be and where it's more convenient for them for us to be. So if there is a young person who wants to have access to the Sparkassen in their cell phone, then it will be available there. If somebody wants to have access to their savings through the website or through a web portal, we will also have that opportunity. And if they want to go to an ATM, there are more than 25,000 ATMs for this Sparkasse system, or if they prefer the brick and mortar banks, we can also you can also find them in all of the municipalities. They only have operations in Germany because it is for the region, from the region. So the financial group does not have the intention to expand beyond the borders because this is what has been established in the social and public mandate based on which it was created more than 230 years ago. So it is the greatest financial group in Germany and unquestionably one of the biggest in Europe and around the world. So to have an idea of the size of this financial group, there are 376 Sparkassen, so these are savings institutions, and the financial group also includes leasing, factoring, housing, banks, for example. And in the financial group, we have 1,414 million euros, so 1.5 billion, more than 200 affiliates, 48.5 million savings accounts, 54.2 million customers who are card holders, 33 million accounts, more than 23,000 ATMs. And in our financial group, we have more than 200,000 employees. In this group, there are more than 15 apprentices going through the training program in Germany. So it could be said that 2 out of 3 German citizens have an account in these Sparkassen because we have our roots in the people. Together with cooperative banks, we are undoubtedly the most powerful financial institution in Germany, in Europe, and perhaps even the world. And this is all based on a community approach for the territories and not necessarily in the service of great capital. So this is what sets us apart from other institutions. And this model has also been shared throughout the world by organizations like our own. We provide consultancy for financial groups and we share our experience by cooperating with governments and social economy organizations, fundamentally in the financial system, this financial part of the social economy all around the world. So now that we have described the organization, the intention was also to tell you that a social economy is not only about small enterprises or small scale initiatives with low production in the remotest areas to ensure a livelihood. So the social economy can be as powerful and as strong as we have just mentioned. So the difference is that the size of the organization should always serve the people. The main goal should always be to serve the people. So we have been invited to talk about this topic, and we will have very distinguished guests in our session today. They are very distinguished in SSE around the world. We will talk about promoting diverse and innovative mechanisms for social and solidarity finances. Financial innovation, now more than ever, is a great challenge for the human dimension on finance. Prioritizing criteria to redistribute economic resources to promote innovation and digital transformation in the services. With the advent of innovative projects with a vision, including SSE, social finance should ensure financial inclusion to promote and democratize access to these services to make it feasible to have productive initiatives to contribute to welfare, well-being in general. So in this model, we have alternatives to traditional finance, and we will gather resources to have more distribution instead of centralizing all of the resources. Most traditional institutions deprive essential services the population, especially in the global south. And we need this cooperation between all of the groups, including popular groups, indigenous groups. Those are also communities that need to have access to financial services and to have a well-structured system in order to carry out productive initiatives as well. So essentially, these are innovative mechanisms which aim to democratize monetary and financial resources based on the people's needs and their organizations. This includes, for example, new ways to manage money, evaluating projects, and particularly the risks should also be assessed. So financial mechanisms should be used, for example, for investment, financial and non-financial instruments. And above all, it is extremely important to respect the specific aspects of the socioeconomic context. The great problem of financial services in the development system around the world is that innovation usually serves a group of people that is not all the people. So is it exclusively for capital or for the people themselves? This is the great question. So in order to address this very important topic, I am going to introduce all of our guests, our speakers in this session. We would like to welcome, first and foremost, Susan Shibanga, the Executive Director of Agri and Microfinance in Zambia. She is an accountant with more than 13 years of experience in Zambia, 8 years at the managerial level for microfinances, and she started at Agri and Microfinance in 2016 as the financial director, which she was until she took up as an executive director. She has also had many positions in the Department of Finance, and she has been responsible for the implementation of financial strategies. She has experience in planning and strategic implementations, business analysis, risk management, management of human resources, and she has gained expertise in many industries, including mining, construction, hospitality, and financial services. She is also a member of the ACA, and she has a degree in science by the Zambia University. We also have a dear colleague from Ecuador, Professor Giovanni Cardoso Ruiz, who is General Manager for the Desarrollo de los Pueblos Bank, called Co-Desarrollo. He has a master's degree in business management from Ecuador, He is a specialist in social management by the Simón Bolívar Andean University. He is also a specialist in popular finance. He is an economist who studied in the University of Cuenca. And he has more than 30 years of professional experience in SSE, providing services to public, private, popular, and solidarity companies. He is a professor at the postgraduate degree. He has been a speaker in several national and international conferences as well. So welcome, Giovanni. Next, I also have the pleasure to introduce Kyung Young Song. He is the president of Korea's Social Value and Solidarity Foundation. He is the president of the Social Value and Solidarity Foundation, as was mentioned before. It is the first institution of its kind that was established in Korea. It is an institution that addresses issues like social housing, community ownership, and he also works with a platform for urban regeneration. It is based on the collaboration of many central government agencies, local authorities, and research institutes. He is also a priest at the Korean dioceses in the Anglican Church. We also have the pleasure of welcoming Gianluca Salvatori, who is the General Secretary at EURICSE in Italy. He has collaborated at EURICSE since 2009, first as General Director and then starting in 2015 as General Secretary. He was also the General Secretary of Fondazione Italia Sociale, and he was member of the expert group from the European Union for Social Economy and Social Companies. And he has also been an observer participant of the Interinstitutional Working Group on SSE by the United Nations. He was also a researcher in innovation at the Bruno Kessler Institution, and he was advisor at the Trento province and founder and president of the Progetto Manufattura. Continuing with the introductions, I also have the great pleasure to introduce Margaret Mendel from Concordia University in Canada. She is a member of the Advisory Committee on Policies for Social Development by the government of Quebec, which developed a new model for a social economy, also adopted by the National Assembly, and she is also she's part of the advisory committee at GSAP. She was awarded the Francophone award. This is an acknowledgement on this field called ACFAS. It's the Quebec Award 2013, which is the greatest distinction awarded by the Quebec government for culture and social sciences. Finally, and we also have him here face to face, his name is Gonzalo Alejandro Sicilia. He is the General Director of the Fund for Social Development from Mexico City government. He has more than 30 years of experience in economics and trade. He has a degree in business management and a specialization in marketing in the Higher Institute of Commercial Studies. He also worked for the Mexican Bank, and he was director of Banca Mifel. He was also director of operations at Centros Comerciales Nápoles, Bank Bancomer, and worked for the Serfin Institution. He was also the president of Mexican World Trade Center. So welcome, all of you. Welcome to all of our speakers. And now we would like to play the short video to start this plenary.
Mirar al
Thank
sector
you. Go
financiero
ahead.
con los lentes de solidaridad y cooperación es el
Looking
primer
at
paso para
the
transitar
financial
hacia la
sector
justicia
with
social.
solidarity
La
and
relación entre las
cooperation is the
finanzas y el
first step
bienestar de las
to social
sociedades lleva
justice.
años.
The relationship between finance and well-being has existed for years, and this has led to debates about strategies to democratize monetary and financial resources based on the needs of the majority, financial capital in the service of society. In a globalized world where only a few organizations concentrate all the resources, we need equitable distribution systems to meet social needs. And we must be dynamic and innovate in the face of socioeconomic issues. We must put all of the financial resources in the service of society through cooperative finance and social strategies that will help us address the main challenges, finance that will lead to a better tomorrow. So welcome to panel number 4 for diverse and innovative mechanisms for social and solidarity finance. Thank you. So to begin and to start listening to those who have a lot to share with you today, I would like to ask the first question. This question will be posed to each and every one of the speakers. How to transform conventional finance. This is our current reality, but it's usually based on speculation and it's far removed from the needs of the people. How do we go from that to upholding the social solidarity principles by putting human beings at the core? So we will ask you to please follow this sequence in replying to this question. So first, Suzanne and Giovanni, then Ki Young Song, Gianluca, Margaret, and Gonzalo Alejandro. Each of you will have 5 minutes to reply to the first question. Go ahead, Susan.
Thank you so much. Of course, I think like you have rightly put it, most of the conventional finance that we see rarely would address the needs of the people, in that in most cases, when the models are being introduced, they are actually an adoption of what has worked elsewhere, and then it is brought forth in a particular economy. That, of course, is very prominent here in Africa, particularly in Zambia, where I am coming from, and where the microfinance sector in itself is just beginning to develop. And so you'll find that most of the models that we do have actually would be developed elsewhere, either in Asia or in Europe. And then we have that actually introduced in Africa, including from the banks. But I think in the spirit of ensuring that we can foster inclusion and also embrace diversity, I feel that there is a need to understand the culture that is there. And that is one thing that Agora Microfinance has adopted. For example, if you are to work with cooperatives or a group of people, we ourselves are actually an institution that is predominantly rural. And one of the attributes to our success is the fact that we have embraced the cultures or the structures that are there in the society. So for example, if you would go in a particular village, you acknowledge the presence of the chief, you acknowledge the presence of the leadership that is there, speak to them and understand what exactly are the needs of the people in that area. What are their economic activities? What exactly are they engaged in? How do they live their lives in, let's say, in a cycle, in a month? What are the activities that they do engage in? And in such a way, we then develop a model that fits into those activities and the various needs that the people have. And I think for us, that has been one of the greatest attributes to the success. So number one definitely is about understanding the culture and embracing the various structures that do exist in a specific economic environment. Also, I do take cognizant of the fact that it is very important to have the various interests of the stakeholders well aligned. If you are talking about the social and solidarity economy, we are talking about working together. I need to definitely set aside some of my interests as an investor, as a shareholder, as a director, as an employee, and also as a client. And then we look for a common goal in order that each and every one should be able to benefit. If you're talking about being a capitalist economy, definitely you would find that certain times investors sometimes would be so skewed to getting a profit or maximization of their returns at the expense of a client who is then charged a very high interest rate. So those are those interests should definitely be aligned in order for all the parties to actually gain and for us to attain the social and solidarity economy. So definitely alignment is another. And of course, partnerships. Partnerships with the various stakeholders. I find that in this day, definitely the MNOs do play a very significant role, as they have brought forth a lot of technologies that are actually helping or creating an enabling environment in which we can actually provide some of these financial services. So partnerships with the MNOs and also with the government, because the government definitely does create policies in the economy, financial policies, monetary policies that do actually would help a financial institution manage its operations and see how best they can then provide the services to their clients. If each one of us would actually think about the other person, the end user, how does the government benefit? How does the environment remain sustained in all our practices? Then definitely we are going to be able to have sustainable financial services. That has come from our experience, even as Agora Microfinance. Within our operations, we have embraced diversity. We have embraced a lot of partnerships with the various stakeholders, the governments, in offering social cash transfers, in ensuring that we can partner with the MNOs, with their platforms, and also partnerships with various other stakeholders that come on board as lenders or in technical assistance. Definitely, all that expertise does help in ensuring that we can provide the best of the services to our clients. And also definitely looking at our clients, you know, most of these conventional models that we do have, it's very expensive model because we go to the client. A conventional financing like a bank, you expect the client to actually come to you, walk into your facilities. But for us, we go to the client 100 kilometers in depth to reach out to the client and foster that inclusion so that there's no one who is left behind, because we believe even that segment do require financing as well. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Susan. La misma pregunta entonces.
Thank you, Susan. And now I'd like to ask the same question to Giovanni Cardoso Ruiz. Go ahead, Giovanni. Hello, good morning from Ecuador. And greetings to you personally. You're a dear friend of mine, but greetings to everyone around the world who is listening to us. I'd like to share a more global approach, if you'll allow me. I think we have to consider what the goal is, which is co-creating new social and economic relations. And to do that, we need a new social and solidarity economy. As Luis said, humans need to behave not aiming to accumulate wealth and compete against one another, but rather our organizational models and our goals need to be based on solidarity, cooperation, and support for the weakest. With that aim in mind, we need to have three pillars. First, economic development. Yes, that's very important. But I think even more important is reducing social inequality gaps and guaranteeing that development happens in an environmental friendly way. In Ecuador, we want to formally recognize work-based organizations and their own organizational structures. We call this popular and solidarity economy, and we want it to be recognized as such within SSE. We must consider that inclusion goes beyond economy. Social inclusion also implies first recognizing popular solidarity economies, as I said, based on work and production, and their organizational models based on cooperation, community-based organization, and others don't seek to accumulate wealth. Firstly, because they rarely have access to resources, and in fact, they need more financial support. But their aim is the work itself and not accumulating wealth. Therefore, the government, officials need to create public policies, regulations, supervision, and encouragement, firstly by recognizing their existence. The next step is understanding that what they seek is to bring workers together through a new organizational model and not to accumulate wealth. And the last goal should be financial integration. That implies using credits, community banks, funds, different systems to support cooperatives, investment schemes that can help the social and solidarity finances. In the bank where I work, we call them local structures. We need to go beyond simple microcredits and provide financial support based on solidarity. So we need a new financial brokerage system based on cooperation. Every stakeholder has a role to play to guarantee this: the government, social organizations, social banks, the popular organizations themselves, and financial institutions and organizations. Many strategies need to be used: training, recognizing them as legal entities, because this doesn't happen in Ecuador. In the past, there used to be savings cooperatives, thousands of them, and now there are only 500. Sustainability shouldn't only be based on accumulation of wealth. That's actually what has led the cooperatives to be lost. So it shouldn't be that way. As Luis said, the social development of Sparkassen Stiftung don't compete against one another. What they seek is to cooperate, to work together through financial flows and services that are joint, that create accounting systems, bureaus, automated systems, and many other approaches in order to create a new financial fabric where institutions like Banco Codesarrollo, where I work, can offer not only credits, but services that go beyond that in order to provide support and financial services to facilitate money transfers like the Human Development Bonus, to provide access to transaction systems of the Central Bank of Ecuador, for them to have access to utilities, for them to have access to credit cards, debit cards, payment systems. There are many services that we need to provide. And every stakeholder that I mentioned can contribute to that as we build a new economy. Thank you very much. Thank you, Giovanni. Now I would like to ask Kyung Yong Song to answer the same question. How can we transform our current reality of conventional finance based on speculation and neglect, and that neglect the needs of people, to build a new finance based on the principles of social and solidarity economy?
Hello everyone, warm greetings from Social Value and Solidarity Foundation, and also as a former co-chair of the GCEF. I'm very honored and excited to take part in GCEF 2021 Mexico Forum. I hope the forum will provide invaluable opportunities for us to rethink the way we operate our economic and social system, to better accommodate those who are suffering from the aftermath of the pandemic. I strongly believe that the social and solidarity economy can inspire us to rebuild our society towards a more inclusive and sustainable way. And to leverage its full potential, we need to create effective social finance ecosystems that can provide tailored financial products for different types of social economy enterprises. The Korea Social Value and Solidarity Foundation was established in 2019 as the first social finance wholesaler in Korea, and it was created based on the strong partnership between civil society, public, labor unions, and private sector. In Korea, the number of social economy enterprises has been increasing rapidly for the past 10 years, and it became one of the main policy objectives of the government to promote diversity and dynamism of the social economy sectors. However, despite the increase in quantity, Korea was lacking a stable financial supply for social economy enterprises to scale sustainably. To solve the problems, in 2018, the government announced the Social Finance Promotion Plan, which includes the creation of a wholesale social finance fund. Primarily, the Korea Social Value and Solidarity Foundation was designed firstly to support various social impact projects, such as renewable energy and urban regeneration. Secondly, to provide patient capital for social economy enterprises via various intermediaries in different regions of Korea. And finally, to foster social finance intermediaries through capacity building programs. Since its inception in 2019, through 15 social finance intermediaries, the Korea Social Value and Solidarity Foundation had committed approximately $16 million in the form of investments and loans. I'd like to point out that for enhancing sustainability of social economy, the role of social finance is crucial, and we need strong collaboration and participation across the sectors and support from all sectors.
Definition is as complex as the definition of social and solidarity economy. Needs are differentiated by type of organizations, by size, by scope of activity, by seniority, by geographical location, and so on. A large consumer cooperative that can count on a base of millions of members and has a financial flow coming from its business is not comparable to the situation of a small, newly formed social enterprise operating in a non-traditional sector, where the business must be built practically from scratch. And the initial investments involve a high-risk profile. Or a farmer's cooperative in a low-income country, where the presence of financial services is often more important than their level of innovativeness and sophistication. I say this because rather than a list of financial tools that fit all social economic organizations, I think it's more useful to focus on the elements that all these tools must have in common. If we are clear about a common denominator, it will be easier to choose individual mechanisms based on their greater or lesser coherence with what must distinguish specific organizations. But there is a more general issue that I think should be addressed first. And the question is whether there is a finance that does not have profit as its overriding purpose. Said in more extreme terms, can there be a non-profit finance? Or can the financial industry, by its very nature, do nothing but maximize profit? Well, this is a crucial point, because over the last 30 years, this question has been answered mostly in the negative. Except for a very niche experiences, the common perception has been that the financial industry is an autonomous industry, governed only by its need to grow more and more and provide investors with increasing returns. But now we are more aware of how profoundly destructive the consequences of this approach have been on the way we understand the economy. To take the example of the impact on business, finance, instead of serving as a tool for business development, has become an industry that has conditioned business strategies, making short-term goals and easy to measure objectives prevail. So finance has reshaped its approach to the economy according to its own priority. So we are facing in the last 30 years with a derailment caused by finance. And the issue today is to take companies, and not only companies, but I would say more generally speaking, economic life, out of the hands of investors and return them to the hands of a broader spectrum of subjects who form the community of stakeholders. Today, much of the debate should be, I would say, is about definancializing the economy. And I want to underline that for the first time in years, this problem is felt not only by those who work within the social economy, like us, but also by those who stand from the point of view of reinventing the capitalism. And if we are to take seriously the discourses on purpose, on shared value on the part of large companies, the logical consequence is to intervene in the model of finance on which they depend. And that's the point of your question. The social and solidarity economy has an extraordinary opportunity to intervene in this debate, bringing its own unique experience that is based on a vision that is an alternative to the one that has dominated the last decades. A vision that we know is based on not on profit maximization, not on short-term, not on easy to measure goals, but on the orientation towards social transformation that should guide economic action. So social economy organization have a say on the issue of the model of finance that serves the development of people and communities. And this means that we should not focus primarily on the financial mechanisms that serve the development of social economy organization. I want to be very clear. In my opinion, it's time for social and solidarity economy to not only be concerned with social finance, but to be concerned with finance as such. That is, to contribute with its own specific point of view to affirm in principle and in practice a vision in which it is not the financial industry that holds the steering wheel, where the capital is provided by families, by customers, by employees, by community stakeholders. The willingness to invest for shared value is much higher. And that's the point we should insist more than analyzing specific instruments for the social economy. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Gianluca.
Thank you very much, Gianluca. It's a very important thought you leave us with. Next, I would like to invite Marguerite Mendel to share her perspective. The floor is yours.
Excuse me. Okay.
I don't know if...
Do you hear me now?
Ahora sí.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with you. And the advantage of being number 5 on a list of number 6 is that I can build on what I've already heard. And not surprisingly, I'm in full agreement with all our speakers. And I think I'd like to also move in a more global and critical perspective to the question of how to transform the current reality. And maybe I'm exaggerating somewhat, but I think that we are transforming the current reality, perhaps to pick up from Gianluca, because what we refer to today as social finance is a major disruptor. And we see this in the growing impact investing market internationally. And even though impact investing is very present and is growing very rapidly, we have to both welcome it, but we also have to apply a critical lens to it to address issues of greenwashing and social washing, for example, where impact is a very broad and very loose term. But we also have to acknowledge that large institutions, pension funds, foundations, for example, are more committed to social impact, social and environmental impact. So how do we link this to the SSE? What we have to do, to pick up on Gianluca's point, is we must reinforce the underlying principles of the social and solidarity economy, which is often missed in this very conflated perspective of impact investing. The social and solidarity economy is very diverse, from small to medium to very large, from cooperatives to nonprofit enterprises. The sectors vary considerably. Their histories vary considerably as well. So we have to resist what has tended to be in the impact investing market, supply driven. There's a tsunami of capital, which is now available in this market. But in my view, much of it is very unhinged from the needs and the demands, the specificities of the social and solidarity economy. And what we have learned, as we've heard from previous speakers, is that proximity finance, responding to the needs, understanding the diversity of social and solidarity economy is what has helped shape a diversity of financial instruments and financial tools. But I'd like to just go back in time a little bit, if you will permit me. Everything is presented as new. This impact investing, well, it's now, since the end of the 1990s, but it's still seen as relatively new. And there's been a surge of activity in the impact investing market really since the financial crisis of 2008 and 2009, and a search for more ethical investment tools and more ethical markets in which to invest. But we know, and we've heard from our speakers, we have a long history of social finance, of community banking, of microfinance, which has its roots in love money and the tontine, which were established in Africa. In my own province of Quebec, we have the labor unions, the labor movement intrinsically involved in social finance by creating solidarity funds and demonstrating that you can be profitable but that the profit has to be long-term stable returns versus speculative profit, speculative returns. So I believe that while we have a very long way to go, social finance, which is grounded in the principles of SSE, is far more than simply a disruptive force today. We are having an influence. We are shaking up financial institutions, regardless of the caveat that I expressed earlier. And what we have to do, as Gianluca just mentioned, is to continue that work of working on the inside of the major financial institutions to push this trend even further. One thing I would like to raise in this market is the need for time horizons, which I think has been missing even in the social and solidarity finance market, and that is to respect the life cycle of social and solidarity enterprises. For the time being, most of the instruments that are available are debt instruments, and they are short-term. We need to be creative and co-design with stakeholders more quasi-equity, patient capital, financial tools, as was mentioned by Reverend Song earlier, which has shaped the model of his institution in Korea. We have a lot of knowledge and experience to share. We have networking opportunities around the world that are helping us transfer knowledge from country to country, from continent to continent. We have to continue to disrupt. This is a disruption of the financial institutions and financialization as such. But we also, in so doing, we have to insist on the need to address the demand side, the needs of social and solidarity enterprises, and not simply pour more capital into the system. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Margarita.
Thank you very much, Margaret. And we're coming to the end of our first round. I think we've gone beyond the time we had, but that's okay. I want to invite Gonzalo Sicilia last to give us his opinion on this first question. Thank you. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Thank you to all the participants. Thank you, Luis. Okay, so before anything else, I want to say that when we talk about social and solidarity economy, we must remember how important it is for finance to reach every sector, especially the most vulnerable groups. Finance should be offered at appropriate rates so that even the most vulnerable groups can have access to financial services. To transform the current reality of social and solidarity economy, I think it's important to mention that the financial system currently in place in Mexico and all over the world is mostly based on speculation. Financial capital is almost exclusively invested in a way that seeks to maximize profit, leading to more inequality and exclusion for the most marginalized groups, as I said before. Now, despite the existence of a growing number of credits and loans, the financial system, in most cases, still fails to even consider offering services to certain people, projects, and groups. because they simply cannot meet the profitability requirements because they don't have guarantees that are traditionally asked for in the financial market. Most banks don't offer rates that the majority of the population can pay. So I want to talk not only about investment in social and solidarity economy, because a lot of the instruments, as I said before, are simply not accessible to many because their initiatives and the nature of their projects, which sometimes are alternative, innovative activities that don't necessarily have the returns that are expected, but they are socially significant initiatives that are ignored by the banking and financial sector. So Fondeso, which is the organization that I am here representing, the Social Development Fund of Mexico City, seeks to transform this reality of conventional finance to propose new financial models that can really tend to the needs of individuals and businesses, and the resources are aimed to improve their projects, ideas, and development models. That's why the Social Development Fund now provides credits from 0 to 6% annual interest so that even the most marginalized groups can have access to them. So this trust fund can offer people who make use of these mechanisms to make responsible use of resources, and we transfer decision power to them. We believe credit is a way to finance production and to meet the needs of individuals and businesses. It's also necessary to start thinking about economy as a way of organizing society around the resources that we need to achieve welfare for everyone. To do that, we need to rethink processes such as production, trading, consumption, and focus on a new production consumption model. We also need to rethink financial models, and for that we need to adopt the pillars of social and solidarity economy, such as cooperation. If we introduce cooperation in economic and financial organizations, that will lead to a series of social and cultural benefits that go beyond economic profit. I must also mention the importance that social solidarity economy practices can help fight against inclusion, exclusion, and poverty, not only the consequences of that. So together, we can make sure these initiatives go from local to global, and everything that the cultures, nations, and communities can offer can contribute to create a society based on diversity. Social and economic initiatives that can be born from a system like this will be more democratic, participatory, will truly respond to human needs, and will show commitment with society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gonzalo. Because of the time restrictions, I would like to give a summary of the main messages in the first round. Well, Susan Shibanga talked about the financial models, the problems, sorry, for the financial models that come from other regions but don't adapt to the environment and the specific needs of each of the regions where they will be implemented. She talked about how sometimes it's all in favor of a few people or organizations and not to benefit the people. And she also highlighted the importance of partnerships with several stakeholders. And then Giovanni Cardoso talked about the challenge to build a new economy based on cooperation and solidarity, and to think about development, the development of an economic model that could be consistent with protection of the environment, about the promotion of financial inclusion that comes from social inclusion, and the different ways to organize in the territories. If we include the understanding of diversity and organization in finance, then it is possible to adapt. And it was suggested that the process needs to be backwards. First, we need to have social inclusion to understand that there is a very specific situation in the territories, and then based on that to be able to promote financial inclusion. Kim Yong-song also said that he firmly believes that the social and solidarity economy is essential to reevaluate what happens in the society and also have sustainable growth. And to reach our full potential, it is necessary to create funding ecosystems that are more solidary, with more solidarity, and can be tailored to different sectors of society. Gianluca also presented many concepts and important messages in his intervention. He talked about the dilemma in the investments for social economy, and there's a difference according to the regions. He talked about common denominators and how funding should seek real profitability, but all of the projects need to adapt to a certain logic. And the financial industry grows constantly. Therefore, that process must be taken into consideration, and there should be risk analysis for capital. Marguerite Mendel talked about attracting investment to social economy by aligning to the principles of SSE and having transparency. And we should resist the temptation that investments always bring, which is to maximize profitability in a limitless way. And we should also seek to have an impact through sustainable models. And Gonzalo talked about the importance of seeking funding for the most vulnerable populations at the right prices and rates. There was also reference to the selection criteria from traditional banking, which are most often excluding. And these criteria are the foundation for the social development funds. Now we would like to start the second round, and in this next session, it is very important to remember the elements that have already been mentioned in the first round and connect them to the second question. What should be actions or strategies adopted by people, governments, societies, and governments in order to have a better and more inclusive world? Which local actions should be promoted? I would like to ask all of the speakers to please try to be very concise, because we don't have a lot of time left. So each of the speakers will have about 3 minutes to talk about these actions. And also follow us in this live broadcast in our website, gcef2021.org. And you can also mention us on social media by using the hashtag GCEF2021. Go ahead with the second answer, Susan Chibanga, please. It's 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure we have come across the saying that the bank is no longer a service now, but rather a tool that we have in our hands that is actually enabling us to manage our own financial resources. And so I think some of the actions that we may need to take as individuals, governments, groups, financial institutions, lenders, partner organizations, it's really, we need a deliberate steps to identify measures that would create a social and solidarity economy. I think I have seen this over the years, especially when most countries have been hit by climate change and also with the recent happenings of COVID. This has actually made us to realize that we can no longer conduct our businesses the same way that we have conducted them in the past. And so to create an inclusive world, we need to understand that there is a contribution that is required from every sector. As the government formulates its policies, they need to understand that there are financial institutions, there are also other players on the market, and therefore to engage all the relevant stakeholders and relevant players in the formulation of the policies, and also to make sure that those policies are implemented more prudently. I think that definitely is something that is going to help each and every one of us globally. Also, I would like to echo the words that have been spoken. You know, if definitely seeking funding that would target specific sectors of the economy, or that would target certain segments of clientele. For example, if you are reaching out to refugees, if you are reaching out to the most vulnerable, definitely it is very helpful in order to, if you actually get a funding that is reasonably priced, that would definitely help to also pass on those benefits to the vulnerable societies, because what we are looking for is an inclusive economy. What we are looking for is to make sure that even those vulnerable societies should actually be able to access financial services. Also, I find a diversification in creating not to
Vamos terminando.
He's asking to wrap up the presentation.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Yes, indeed, the diversification of products in the form of not just looking at credit as a support, but I think we have also found that services such as microinsurance, services that do help to provide a cushion for some of these vulnerable societies. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias, Susan. Rápidamente.
Thank you very much, Susan. So from Zambia, we are going to fly all the way to Ecuador with Giovanni Cardoso so that he can reply to the second question. Thank you. And I am sorry for taking a few more minutes in the previous intervention. So I would like to use these 3 minutes to talk about 3 ideas. So in the first place, it is not about whether production should have a surplus or profitability. It is all about distribution of income and redistribution of accumulated capital in order to build a new economy. And in this case, the state with capital S has a very big role, and the local government as well. And they have the responsibility, as Jose Luis Coraggio says, they should build a mixed economy, which is in transit to become the social and solidarity economy as well. So there should be popular participation, and this sector should be relevant. We have 2 main goals and some strategies that could also be considered for public policies. The first one is to strengthen, consolidate, and articulate the Popular and Solidarity financial institutions to favor productive processes for stakeholders that are part of SSE. So in this goal, we have the following strategies: providing constant training. For example, Sparkassen does that and does a great job in this area. There should also be political action to make all of this formal. Adaptation to other financial services, and also providing credit cards, ATMs, having facilitation of management programs, having an adequate legal framework to regulate and promote organizations. The second goal is to articulate the Popular and Solidarity financial sector through public banking, ethical and social banking that is private within the national system, with three elements: providing funding to organizations, liquidity mechanisms, having operations, first level and second level operations for the SSE, and also having access to insurance, including all of the popular organizations, and working towards local development of each of the territories. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Giovanni.
Okay, thank you very much, Giovanni.
Al tiempo.
And thank you for being mindful of the time limit as well. Now, Kim Young Song, please go ahead with the answer to the second question from Korea. Go ahead.
The impacts the most vulnerable people in our society are affected most. We need strong solidarity among all actors more than ever, and the role of social finance is crucial to guide different sectors and actors in our society to embed social value as an intrinsic mission to purse in their every economic and social activity. In times of crisis, the social and solidarity economy can play a vital role, as most social economy enterprises are deeply rooted in our community. They can act quickly for the most vulnerable groups in our society. Through the pandemic, we are witnessing a widening income gap and an increasing number of precarious workers due to accommodative fiscal policies, rapid diffusion of the platform, and contactless economy, and they are posing serious societal challenges. To tackle the issues, firstly, we need to build financial tools for combating climate change and helping those precarious workers who are unable to access welfare provisions. In particular, temporary platform workers and freelancers who cannot adequately be defined by conventional legal framework, hence outside of social security net. And states should institutionalize various support programs for those workers. At the same time, bottom-up self-support efforts such as mutual aids could go hand in hand with the state programs. For example, with the Seoul Metropolitan Government, the Korea Social Value and Solidarity Foundation is currently helping platform workers to launch mutual aids by providing various matching funds. Currently, we are working with workers in 6 strategic areas to launch mutual aid. I believe the COVID-19 pandemic can be a good opportunity for us to rethink the way we structure and finance our economic and social system. Together, we can build a resilient, sustainable, and inclusive society based on the solidarity of all the social economy actors.
Gracias. Rápidamente
Thank you very
pasamos
much. Now we would like to go to Italy and have the answer from Gianluca Salvatori.
Well, my answer to your question is very simple. I think that social and solidarity economy should be more ambitious. And let me frame the question. More than 1/3 of the world's invested capital is controlled by the top 100 asset owners. About 2/3 of that money is invested in pension funds and 1/3 in sovereign wealth funds. Just 15 asset managers, the largest ones, collectively manage almost half of the total invested globally. A substantial portion of the funds under management belong to us, to citizens, to workers. They are our pensions. They are funds created by our governments to support future public policies. It's our money, but we don't have a voice in how it's used. So the point is how to regain possession of the steering wheel again. On a practical level, this means putting pressure on those who manage on our behalf financial assets. Those few asset managers who are ruling the financial world, and this task requires advocacy skills from our side, requires a strong representation, requires a clear strategy, a strategy that, according to me, should be based at least on two main objectives. The first one is developing accounting tools that make it possible reliable and standardized criteria with which to measure social impact, criteria that are different from current metrics, such as ESG or impact investing measures, which are still very imperfect and above all are unbalanced on the side of communication or marketing for benefit on investors. They don't suit the need of social economy. Second objective should be challenging financial actors, all actors, not only the social finance actors, all actors, challenging them on new forms of governance that also include stakeholders. So we should export the organizational principles of the social economy to environments that until yesterday were not receptive, but today are more open. This is, to me, a practical way to focus our energies in order to change the way of doing finance worldwide. Thanks.
Muchísimas gracias, Gianluca.
Thank you very much, Gianluca. Now we will go all the way to Canada with Margaret Mandel to hear her second answer.
Thank you. I interpreted this as a very broad question in which finance is embedded. I think I believe that Giovanni Cardoso made reference to the role of the state. I think this is really important in a question like what key actions should be promoted at the local level. If you recall, the deputy mayor of Montevideo in the opening mayor's panel said that the local level has to be the first level of government and not the third, descending from national to regional government. And for example, in my own country, the Canadian Constitution identifies the roles and responsibilities of provinces, and it is the provinces that define the roles and responsibilities of cities. And also, it limits severely the resources that are available to cities. So when we talk about the local level, whether we're talking about finance or SSE, we also have to address the limitations and how we can break down the barriers and create more coherence at different policy levels. This applies to how we design social finance institutions. In Canada, at the moment, the federal government is introducing a social finance and social innovation program. And there were big battles, big debates as to whether this should be centralized and then distributed across the country, or whether there should be a wholesaler and then it would be distributed through intermediaries. I know I mentioned this earlier and I mention it again, that if we want to work towards the objectives of the social and solidarity economy, these tools, these instruments have to be situated in local environments, in intermediaries that are close to the markets that they are serving. So we have to look at the political economy framework, the structures of administrative units within different countries. Administration, public administration, we know is rigid, it's difficult, it's bureaucratic. More doors have to be broken down, more opportunities for stakeholder participation in order to be able to design the tools that are appropriate for local settings. I will stop here to respect my time limits. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, Margaret. Y cerramos
Thank you
esta.
very much, Margaret. And we are going to close this second round with Gonzalo Alejandro Cecilia. Go ahead, please. Well, to answer this second question, I would like to refer to the social and solidarity economy vision. It is a process for multiple sectors and popular groups that aim to make problems and needs visible. So, for example, indigenous communities that strive to retrieve their identity, people who have entrepreneurial initiatives in line with a social principle, those fighting for gender equality, environmental activists who are concerned about the environmental problems created by production systems, non-governmental organizations that also aspire to contribute through new initiatives to improve the development models. This convergence is part of an entrepreneurial initiative on behalf of all of these groups who seek personal and collective development. It goes from the micro to the macro level. Unfortunately, in Mexico, the population, just like in other countries, does not know about their importance in the social transformation. However, it is society that needs to take a stand and start leading innovation. We should switch individualism for self-development, self-management, and everything must be done with great solidarity. So the actions that people, governments, organizations and countries should take to create a better and more inclusive world is to create cross-cutting partnerships in all areas with all of the stakeholders in the short and long term in order to cooperate and comply with all of the necessary requirements. And so the cooperation will not only be serving one purpose, but rather the purpose of humanity. And this will allow us to protect diversity, autonomy, and territories, as well as the environment and natural resources. And that is how we will contribute to the creation of social and economic tools. And it will not only be a unilateral transformation. By carrying out all of these actions regarding solidarity economy, the cooperation, knowledge exchange, and display of experiences will be very helpful for the governments to create public policies, because they should be an opportunity to create spaces and opportunities for people to take ownership of their own resources. As a result, every individual, community, or group will be sovereign, and in this way, we would make up a true democracy. So states should serve society and meet all its needs. I will not talk about the importance of human beings in our current society, but inclusion of the less privileged groups is indispensable. This is a human right that has been established for everyone. That's why it's necessary to design and implement social protection measures by upholding the social inclusion principles so that everyone can take part in the economy as well. Therefore, governments, social groups, and countries should always seek to overcome all of the obstacles that the less privileged groups face and take all of the measures necessary to protect them. Thank you. Thank you very much, Gonzalo. We have now gone over the time that had been established for this panel. We are not going to sum up the second round, but rather we would like to ask each of our panelists today to please provide the conclusions for this panel, share their own perspective, maybe connecting to some other things that the guests have spoken about, and you have 1 minute to do this. Thank you very much for this great effort. Of course, we have a very full agenda for our event, and there are still many panels to come. So we would like to please ask Susan to provide her conclusion. Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. My conclusion and my take home from what each and every speaker has stated is that there's a definite need for the alignment of interests from the various stakeholders in order for us to be able to achieve our goals concerning the solidarity and social economy. So that is my take home. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Susan.
Thank you very much, Susan. Giovanni Cardoso. Thank you. I think we can all agree that social and solidarity economy does not mean to go against social and economic growth, but rather to closing the gap of inequality and promoting living in harmony with nature. But we have to think about the role that we each have to play. The idea is to integrate all organizations from the social and solidarity economy sector and make them have access to the financial instruments available. And I agree that we have to work locally. And I want to end with the following phrase. We have to keep our feet in local ground, but think globally. Thank you very much. Thank you, Giovanni.
Corea, adelante.
Next, all the way to Korea. Go ahead.
I believe a key to successful co-construction of solutions in combating various global challenges we are facing today, notably inequality and climate changes, we need to create sustainable social finance ecosystems rooted in our communities that can continuously support diverse and alternative experiments of all the actors from different sectors of social solidarity economy. I believe a key to
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very
Y
much.
ahora desde Italia,
Next.
Gianluca.
To Italy with Gianluca.
My final point is very simple. We are living an interesting window of opportunity. For a long time, we were struggling with a monolithic view of finance based on the idea that the real economy should be shaped by the needs and the timing of finance. Now we see a movement in the opposite direction. The transition is still far from complete, but for the first time, some of the arguments at the heart of the social economy are resonating in other contexts. In this situation, social economic organizations should take courage and challenge other actors to demonstrate the seriousness of their intention, not by looking only in our own backyard, inward looking, but taking a stand on the role that finance is called to play in the development of a society, so outward looking. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Gianluca.
Thank you very much, Gianluca. Next, we're going to Canada with Margaret.
I'd like to pick up on that last point and say that we also have a responsibility to document what has occurred in this market, in this social finance market. Post 2008, 2009, the rate of bankruptcies was insignificant in the social and solidarity economy and in social finance institutions compared with mainstream finance. COVID, we see again resilience of social and solidarity economy enterprises and organizations, and we also see a readjustment and suspension of interest payments and reimbursement schedules during this very difficult period. So there is this intimate connection between working in proximity with stakeholders, resilience, and a lower failure rate, which I think should be very attractive to the financial community beyond the social and solidarity economy, and bring more people on board to see this as a viable way in which to operate financial institutions committed to well-being.
Gracias.
Thank you. And finally, to finish our conclusion round, we will hear Gonzalo Alejandro Sicilia. I just want to say that in order to have the social and solidarity economy, the public sector, the private sector, and the financial sector must join efforts so that funds and resources can reach all social classes, so that they can also be accessible to the most vulnerable, which is what our country and many others in the world need. Thank you. Thank you very much, Gonzalo. And I don't know if we still have time for questions from the audience. If so, I don't know if we should wait for them in the chat or what. Okay, so maybe these are general questions, so any of our panelists can answer the questions coming from the audience. I think we see the question there on the screen, but I can't read it. If you could help me with that, there's a question on the screen. Okay, let me try to read it. While they get it ready on the screen, I want to invite everyone who is listening to us as part of GSIF 2021. We do have a question. I just want to invite you to access our website, gsif2021.org, and follow us on social media. Okay, we're ready for the question. Good morning, I'm Saldo Levy, and I am a person living with a disability. My question is, why haven't we seen more promotion of cooperatives? And I say this because every December 3rd, we demonstrate and we take the streets asking for jobs. I just finished the temporary job that I was working in, but I think there needs to be more promotion so that vulnerable groups can have access to better opportunities. I personally, and I'm sorry to say it like this, but it looks like policies don't always translate to reality. I don't know if anybody from the panel would care to comment about that. Thank you. Thank you very much to
Giovanni, adelante.
our member from the audience. Giovanni? Okay, yes, I think it's important to understand that social and solidarity economy, and in Ecuador, popular and solidarity economy goes against the status quo of capitalist markets. Therefore, of course, many economic agents that start growing in this sector face resistance and exclusion. That's why it's necessary that workers, organizations, entrepreneurs become stronger so that, as a professor from Argentina says, we need to embrace conflict in order to transform society. She understands conflict as a way to transform reality. So, how can we change the market relations from within and start privileging human relations instead of financial relations? There's a question from social media that says, how can we change financial education so that it is based more on solidarity? So, how can we transform financial education so that it is not only about generating profit, but about promoting inclusion? Would any of our panelists care to comment on that question? Margaret, yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, this is an extremely important question. One of the reasons that we went through the financial crisis and the difficulty right after in 2008, 2009 was really because of financial illiteracy and economic illiteracy on the part of society as a whole, that we are taught that we need experts to resolve these issues and also to explain them. This is simply not true. The good news is that many business schools are teaching social finance, solidarity finance, impact investing tools, and so on. Economics department, I am an economist. I will be very happy when I can see this being taught in economics departments. So far, I would say that they are the exception and not the rule. So we have to change the culture. We have to introduce more heterodox models in economics departments, and push forward with what is happening in many business schools around the world that are addressing these questions and looking at alternative financial models, including redefinitions of risk and return. I mean, we have to go very back down to the basics.
Muchísimas gracias. Hemos llegado al...
Thank you very much. And unfortunately, because of time constraints, we have to close the panel. But all the questions that we received from our social media and even questions here from the audience, please feel free to approach us, tell us what they are, and we can send them to our panelists. But unfortunately, we have to bring this panel to an end. It was wonderful to share this panel with all of you. And I guess what we are facing now is a great challenge of promoting the financial instruments of social and solidarity economy. So cooperative-based financial instruments, I think, need to be promoted so that they can reach many social and solidarity economy organizations and eventually build a more inclusive world, a world where development is seen as the search for our common good and not as an economic growth figure that can be seen in cold numbers such as the GDP. We're facing the dilemma of putting finance to the service of human beings instead of the other way around, which is the way it is today. So this is our conclusion. We would like to say thank you to all our panelists, and please keep your cameras on in Zambia, Italy, Ecuador, Canada, Mexico, and Korea, so that we take the official picture. Thank you. Thank you very much to the organizers as well, to all the team that is backstage making this possible. Really, it's an army of people who work very hard every day to make this possible. So thank you very, very much to all of you.
En Sociedad Cooperativa Trabajadores de Pascual SCL, somos más que una embotelladora de bebidas de frutas. A través del tiempo, hemos demostrado que es posible la organización laboral para consolidar una empresa sana, que hoy es ejemplo del sistema cooperativista en México. Con bebidas como Boing, Pato Pascual y Lulú, que son nuestros estandartes, nos hemos mantenido en el gusto y preferencia de los consumidores de varias generaciones. Para conformarnos como cooperativa, hubo la necesidad de sensibilizar a todos los trabajadores y optar por un estilo laboral y de vida que nos permitiera mejorar nuestra situación económica, social y cultural. Este sistema ha logrado crear una sinergia de productividad y beneficio colectivo. Ser una empresa como esta es un gran orgullo, un ejemplo de perseverancia y esfuerzo, donde el consumidor es quien se beneficia al tener a su alcance productos nacionales de la mejor calidad. En Cooperativa Pascual estamos conformados por una extraordinaria infraestructura acorde al siglo XXI, en el que trabajamos con equipo y tecnología de vanguardia, lo que nos permite fijar metas a corto y largo plazo basadas en las necesidades del mercado y las preferencias de los consumidores. Contamos con 2 plantas de producción, una en San Juan del Río, Querétaro, y otra en Tizayuca, Hidalgo, en las que elaboramos toda la gama de productos aplicando los más altos estándares de calidad, con la confianza de responder en tiempo y forma a la gran demanda del cada vez más competido mercado de bebidas. En estas plantas producimos más de 40 millones de cajas anuales, con el apoyo de 4 sedes en la Ciudad de México, 30 sucursales y un creciente número de distribuidores autorizados a lo largo del territorio nacional. Comercializamos nuestras ya tradicionales marcas como son Boing, Pato Pascual, Lulú, Néctasis, Agua Purificada, Mexicola y Power Dog, además de la leche Pascual. Nuestras plantas tienen la certificación de sistemas de gestión de calidad ISO 9001-2015 en los procesos de elaboración de bebidas, néctares y pulpas de fruta. Asimismo, contamos con la certificación de FDA en Estados Unidos, lo que nos permite exportar nuestros productos a este país. Para la elaboración de nuestros productos, utilizamos fruta selecta, verificada directamente por nuestra área de control de calidad. Apoyamos el desarrollo y crecimiento del campo nacional, ya que beneficiando a los productores del campo mexicano, en Cooperativa Pascual consumimos más de 20,000 toneladas de frutas al año. Y con la compra directa del azúcar que se requiere para la elaboración de las bebidas que comercializamos, se apoya también a los ingenios azucareros de nuestro país. En una empresa como esta, basamos parte de nuestra fortaleza en la distribución de nuestros productos. Por esto, contamos con una infraestructura de unidades de reparto, asegurando así que nuestras bebidas se puedan disfrutar en cada rincón de México y el extranjero. Para Cooperativa Pascual, el consumidor es lo más importante. Por esto, nuestras decisiones, el personal, las inversiones en tecnología y capacitación se enfocan en satisfacer a los paladares más exigentes. La excelencia de nuestros productos nos ha merecido diversos premios, como el de la excelencia europea, el americano de calidad y reconocimientos internacionales al prestigio comercial de bebidas de marca y calidad. Dentro de la cooperativa tenemos una Fundación Cultural Trabajadores de Pascual y del Arte AC, con un amplio acervo pictórico de importantes artistas. Esta fundación realiza exposiciones por todo el país y apoya diversos proyectos culturales independientes. Por otra parte, contamos con un centro recreativo ubicado en San Juan Teotihuacán para el esparcimiento de los trabajadores y del público en general. Orgullosos de nuestra apuesta por el crecimiento sostenible, el compromiso con el medio ambiente, la creación de empleos y la integración, llevamos nuestras bebidas a cada vez más personas, que son la auténtica base de nuestro futuro. Ser una cooperativa no es solo una figura administrativa, es la orgullosa realidad de una empresa 100% mexicana. Somos lucha, somos calidad, somos la experiencia de más de 80 años en el mercado, somos líderes en la elaboración de bebidas, somos Cooperativa Pascual, calidad que sabe a tradición.